Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Addison Welsh, and I am the Internship and Experiential Learning Manager here at WGU. And I'm so excited to share more information about how to build your internship program at your organization. And so today is a very special day because it is National Intern Day. And so we are providing a variety of events, both to employers as well as students, to honor that day. And so Chris and I agree, could use a Hollister discount too. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And so today we're going to chat through what an internship is, the benefits, and what you need to know in order to create an internship program. I'll also provide you with a lot of resources, some throughout the presentation that Kristen and RJ will help provide, and then we'll leave some space at the end for questions as I shared before. And so to begin, I would love to know, do you currently have an internship program? And if you want to pop that into the poll right there, we'll give you about 30 seconds to answer whether or not you have a current internship program. All right, give everyone a couple more seconds here. All right, you want to share those results, Kristen? Excellent. So a lot of you already actually do have an internship program. We're looking at about 78% and about 22% of you don't. This is a great opportunity for you to connect as well for those that do have internship programs. So if you want to pop in the chat whether or not you have an internship program and would like to connect, could definitely be a great opportunity as well to learn more from others. And so what is an internship? An internship is a professional learning experience that's typically related to a student or recent graduate's academic or career interests. Typically, the main goal of an internship is going to be for skill development and also for the student to gain experience. Something I'm hearing time and time again from employers is that no longer is GPA or major or where a student went to college as important as actually having that experience in the workplace. And so in terms of the benefits, there are many when it comes for students, but particularly for employers, it's a great way to build their talent pipeline. This is a great way for an intern to come in, test out the company, but also for you to see, are they a good fit for your organization? And by doing this, you're also going to decrease your recruiting costs because you're not going to have to post a position, interview a lot of candidates, review applications, all the different pieces that are required in the hiring process. It's also an excellent opportunity to increase your brand awareness, especially interns. You think about Gen Z and traditional 18 to 22-year-olds, very into social media, and they'll share with other students their experience at your organization, which is a great way to expand that brand awareness. It is an excellent way to gain diverse perspectives. Especially by offering paid internships, you're going to allow students from a variety of backgrounds to have this opportunity, and can also give you some insight into different ways to solve challenges that your company is currently facing. And finally, it is an excellent way to expand your capacity, and you can increase the productivity of your organization. Maybe there's some projects that would be helpful to have an intern complete so that you can finally get those projects checked off, or potentially have the full-time employees complete those projects and have some of those other tasks moved to an intern. And so we're going to pop into another poll. I promise this is the last poll, but it's very helpful to know. How do you think internships would most benefit your organization? I'll give you another 20, 30 seconds here. Increase productivity, develop a recruiting pipeline, help you gain new perspectives, provide opportunity, increase brand awareness, or all of the above. Do you want to go ahead and vote there? We've got quite a few folks saying all of the above. Increasing brand awareness is another great opportunity, and then develop a recruiting pipeline as well as provide opportunity. All right. And so we're going to move into how you can create an internship program. And so first, you really want to identify the goals. So let's say, for instance, you need support with a social media campaign in your marketing department. You need to understand, is your overall goal potentially to increase website visits by 30%? By better understanding what it is that you ultimately want to get out of the internship, you're going to be able to better identify what it is that you need from a candidate in terms of skills, as well as the responsibilities that the candidate's going to have. And so if you know, for instance, that you want your organization to increase website visits, that's also going to help you to define the daily and monthly responsibilities of that intern. And so once you define those responsibilities and the skills that are required in order to do those responsibilities, that's really going to help you create that job description. It's also going to be essential to identify what is the compensation that you want to offer the intern. We're going to chat through paid internships and how they can impact both employers as well as students here later. But you do want to determine what is the compensation that you want to provide that intern. You also want to ensure that you are in compliance with federal and state regulations. We will chat through the Department of Labor here in the next slide. But you want to make sure that if there are any state regulations that you need to be in compliance with, that you are meeting those, because they do differ by states. Some companies do offer or do require students to complete a contract, which can include a non-disclosure agreement to ensure that any information that is proprietary to your organization is not shared after the internship. And it can also really outline what the expectations are so that both you and the intern are clear about what needs to be established during that internship experience. Again, those are not required. That is entirely up to your organization and potentially your legal department, depending on what they want to do. And then once you kind of have all of these pieces draft out, you want to start that recruitment and hiring process. This is not so different from hiring a full-time employee, and we will chat through how WGU can help you in that recruiting process. But you want to post the internship opportunity and then determine what application materials are going to be most beneficial for you to determine the best intern for that position. And so maybe you want to include a resume. If a cover letter can help you understand the skills that the student has. Some organizations like to have interviews just to better understand more about the student's experience, which can also help you identify the best candidate. And then once you identify the candidate that you'd like to hire, offering them the position and moving into the onboarding phase. So as I mentioned, there is a requirement in the Department of Labor. It is called the unpaid test for interns. And then thank you, RJ, for popping it in the chat. This is basically a test to determine whether or not the intern that you are hiring needs to be paid or unpaid. And I realize that this page is not very clear. And so there is actually a toll-free number at the bottom. And so if you review that page and you're entirely uncertain whether or not by legal requirements you need to offer a paid or unpaid opportunity, be sure to reach out to them and they can help provide you with next steps. And then, as I said, you want to make sure that you review the requirements by your state. Even a simple Google search, internship requirements for an employer in the state of Nebraska can help get you some results. In terms of the best overall practices for an internship, once you've established the goals, expectations, is creating an orientation for that intern. And this is going to be very similar to what you create for an onboarding employee and probably can use a lot of similar elements. This is really going to help the student understand what they can expect during their internship, what the organizational culture is like, and things that they need to know in order to be successful. During this time, it's also really important to set clear goals and expectations. If the intern doesn't know that they have a certain schedule, or that when they ask questions, they need to go on Slack or they need to ask in person, whatever it might be, if they don't know these things, they're not going to meet them. And so it's really important to set clear goals, whether that's a certain number of tasks completed each day, as well as just expectations to make sure that they're successful in their internship. Another piece is selecting a site supervisor. This is probably one of the most important elements when it comes to internship success. A site supervisor is really going to provide that daily support to the intern. An internship is a learning experience, and so we really want to make sure that you have someone who is able to answer questions for the intern, provide feedback so that they can grow professionally and help them navigate different experiences that they might have in the workplace. Some interns have never had a professional working experience, and so it's really, really helpful for them to have someone that they can go to ask questions. And in that same line, providing the ongoing feedback and support whether that's from the site supervisor, but also other employees that they may work with so that they can continue to grow. Another important element is making sure that there is cross-functional collaboration. And so the opportunity for them to work in different departments, get to know whether that's expanding their professional network by getting to know other people in those departments, but also learning different tasks so that they can see, is this the right fit for me in this particular internship? Or are there other departments or areas that I'm interested in learning more about? And then finally, considering either when I say year-round internships, I mean that in the sense that you're not just offering an internship from May to August, because that's very, very common. Is it a possibility for you to offer them in the fall or in the winter? And the reason for this is that a lot of non-traditional students allows them also to have the opportunity to participate as well. And you're going to get a bigger variety of candidates because a lot of employers do offer only between the May and August dates. In terms of what students want, just in different areas that I work in, whether that's directly with students, speaking with employers or employers who have really robust internship programs and the feedback they've received from students, these are typically the areas where students want the most emphasis. And so the number one things that students want from internships is the opportunity to develop their skills. And so at the start of that internship, understanding how the student wants to grow can be really beneficial so that you can provide those opportunities. And in addition to that, it's also really important to help them reflect on their learning experience. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, you provide them with an Excel doc that has a lot of data, and they go through and they recognize the patterns, helping them understand that's data analysis and how can they talk about that in an interview or add that to their resume. Helping them understand that the skills that they gain is going to be really important because sometimes they may not realize what they've learned and gained. Next, we've kind of talked about the orientation piece. That's going to be really important so that they feel a part of the organization and so that they feel that they know the resources that they have, the people that they can go to for support. But also a lot of students have mentioned that pre-internship support is incredibly helpful. And that's someone that they can go to ask questions before the internship starts, whether that's what time do I need to start? What should I wear? Different things like that. Clear and detailed expectations. Again, what do you expect of them? For students who have not worked in a professional work experience, they may not know what is appropriate or not appropriate in a Zoom environment or how it is to work in an office setting. And so being really clear about these things so that you're on the same page is going to help you and the intern be more successful. Finally, integrating into the company culture and the trainings, it's really important that they feel a part of the organization and that they're not left out of those meetings or those trainings that are offered to employees. And so taking that extra step to include them is going to give them a better experience. And then hybrid opportunities are something that a lot of Gen Z students want, the opportunity to do some days remote and then some on site. Some organizations, I realize that's not an option, and there is research that says that on-site internships actually are more beneficial for students. However, for a lot of students, having those couple of days where they're able to do an internship remote really adds a lot of flexibility into their schedule. And so speaking about hybrid opportunities, when it comes to virtual internships and setting up those types of options, these are going to be very, very similar to creating a regular internship program as we just talked about. And so you're going to want to make sure that you select a site supervisor and that the student has a direct way to contact that site supervisor. Obviously, in a virtual environment, I can't look over and say, hey, Bob, can you help me understand how to do X, Y, and Z? So making sure that they have that consistent support is going to be absolutely essential in a virtual environment. They also need to make sure that you have those consistent one-on-ones so that they're still getting feedback and that they're still able to ask questions and get the support that they need. And they also should be offered an orientation just as you would if you were on site so that they can better understand all the different things that are helpful to know about your organization. In terms of access and equipment, typically students are already going to have Wi-Fi as well as a laptop or computer that they can use. However, if you require a special printer or an extra version of Adobe that's not available for free, those types of things, it can be really helpful to offer that to the intern so that they don't have that financial burden. And then also if there are certain software programs that they need to have access to, making sure that they have access to that on their first day. And then finally, again, this is that piece of integrating them into the organizational culture, especially when an intern is virtual. Sometimes other people may not be aware that they're working for the organization as well. And so making sure that they are a part of those meetings and trainings as well, and any other fun meetings that you may have, just to make sure that they are incorporated too. There's also the opportunity, one of the things that we really share with students is a way to get experience is to check with their current employer, whether or not an internship opportunity is available there. And so let's say, for instance, a student is studying accounting, but they currently work in the HR department. Is there an opportunity for them to create an internship and help with the project in the accounting department so they can get that experience? It's going to be very similar, as I said, to creating like a virtual program or an on-site program. You're going to want to identify those goals and expectations, just as you do for the other opportunities. You'll want to determine the work hours. Are those going to be the same as when the student is working during their full-time hours, or is it going to be after those hours? And also understanding the compensation. Will they be paid at their regular rate while they're completing their intern duties, or will it be a different rate altogether? Something just to keep in mind altogether is that at a minimum, you want to make sure that 50% of the responsibilities of the intern for the current employee are different from that of their typical role. And again, that's just because this is a learning environment, a learning opportunity, and we want to make sure that they do learn outside of what they typically do. One of the most essential things as well in developing a successful internship program is making sure that you integrate ways that you can improve your program after that internship program runs. And so make sure that you request feedback, whether that's from students through surveys or exit interviews, so that you can understand ways that you can improve, as well as areas where you're doing well. In addition to asking the students and interns, it's also going to be important to ask other employees, are there ways that you could provide more support through that internship program so that you can continue to improve? You'll want to review whether or not the project and the goals were able to be completed. Are there expectations that you need to change? Is there more clarity that you need to add to the project and the tasks that an intern needs to complete? Evaluate that, because that's going to be really, really important to making the success of the entire internship. And then once you review that feedback that you've received, as well as just reviewing the overall success of the internship and whether the goals were met, you want to integrate those changes. And depending on what those changes are, you may also need to update the job description. Maybe that's adding a specific skill that a student needs to have that you didn't realize would help before, so that you can make sure that you get the best candidate, or highlighting different responsibilities that are going to be part of the internship that you hadn't previously considered. So that reflection is going to be really, really important just to continue to improve your internship throughout the process. As I mentioned before, I was going to share a little bit about the impact of paid internships, both for employers as well as students. And so for employers, one of the biggest benefits of paid internships is it's really, as I mentioned, it's going to decrease those recruiting costs. I think SHRM, I have an article that we'll share in the resource section, but SHRM shares that typically to hire for a new hire, the recruiting costs are anywhere between a little under 5,000 to 3 to 4 times the salary of that position. And so by hiring an intern, you will actually hopefully not have to have as many of these recruiting costs, because you're not having to review all of those candidates and applications and schedule all of those interviews. Additionally, the paid internship piece is important here, because paid interns are 55% of them typically transition into a full-time role with the organization, whereas an unpaid intern only transitions about 25% of the time. 8 out of 10 employers that have robust internship programs say that this is one of their best recruiting strategies to find talent. And it also, by having paid interns, it's really going to help your organization get more diverse applicants. For a lot of students, especially from different backgrounds, having an unpaid internship is just simply not an option because of the financial barriers. And so as you can see, there's a lot of benefits to offering a paid internship on the employer perspective, and also for students as well. And so for a student that participates in an internship during their academic program, they are actually 49% less likely to experience underemployment post-graduation. And so underemployment can be not getting paid for the skills, experience, and knowledge that you may have. And this can have massive repercussions throughout their entire career. And so it's really the internship experience as a whole is really beneficial, but also the paid piece is essential as well, because as you can see, a paid intern makes about $20,000 more than an unpaid intern after they graduate. And in terms of job offers as well, you can see an increase as well, whereas paid interns receive about 1.61 offers, an unpaid intern receives 0.94, and then a student who doesn't complete an internship at any time during their academic program is actually at 0.77. And so you can see that the paid and unpaid piece really can impact the job offer. Part of this, in terms of why are paid internships so much more beneficial than unpaid? Typically an employer, if they're going to pay an intern, they're going to put more resources, structure, expectations, really good site supervisor, all of these different types of things into that paid opportunity. Whereas an unpaid, it may be more unstructured, they maybe have less goals, different things like that. And so that paid internship piece is really, really important. And the National Association for Colleges and Employers is really advocating that paid internships are the only internships that are available. One thing that I often hear is, oh, if this is an unpaid internship opportunity, however, you can receive academic credit. The thing is that actually isn't, the student is still paying in order to take advantage of that, because they are going to have to pay to take that academic course in order to get the academic credit. And so there's still a financial burden there. And so in addition to this, just for clarity, a student can complete, they can take they can complete an internship for academic credit. They can be paid or unpaid. They can also not take an internship and receive academic credit, and it can be paid and unpaid. And so, as I mentioned, WGU is a great place to help you with your recruiting needs. I think one of the greatest things about what we offer from the employer relations team is that all of our services are offered at no cost. And so you can post your opportunities on Handshake, where we have over 175,000 active students at WGU across so many different programs all over the United States, as well as I think we just hit almost 380,000 alumni all around the world. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can email hirewgu@wgu.edu. And you can also email that email address if you have additional questions about internships that you would like to delve into. We also do host recruiting events. For instance, this morning we had Emerson as well as the International Rescue Committee join us to speak more about their internship program and recruit students here from WGU. And so now we're going to add into the chat here a lot of different resources available to you. And so first, we have the Employer Internship and Experiential Learning Guide. This is a handbook that's just going to walk you through the basics about internships, how to develop a program, considerations, things such as that, as well as other experiential learning opportunities such as volunteering, experiential learning, simulations, other ways that you can engage students at WGU. And then we're also popping in there just the different research that I have referenced throughout this, both the NACE, the National Association for Colleges and Employers, and the impact of unpaid internships, as well as the data from Strata and Burning Glass about the impact of internships. And so please be sure to check out those resources. And with that, are there any questions? I'm going to check the chat. I don't think we have any in there. Let's see. Jennifer, I see that you have your hand up. Let me see.
You should be able to unmute now, Jennifer.
And if the audio is not working for some reason, please feel free to pop it into the chat as well. It's always tricky. These different platforms, they're all so different. That's okay, Jennifer, no worries. If you want to pop it in the chat, that works too.
Here's a question that maybe one of the employer relations partners who's in here can speak to. Is there a charge associated if an employer is interested in having a WGU student as an intern, hosting an event, anything like that?
I can jump in. No charge. Everything anything that you, as far as interacting with our office, everything is free. So happy to connect, have a conversation. Usually, if that's something that you want to connect with our team on, we would more than happy to jump into a virtual meeting, have a conversation, see where your recruitment needs might be and how we might be able to best assist. So as Addison had mentioned, no, there is no charge for any of our services in our office.
Thank you, RJ. That's awesome. Then that's some institutions definitely have different tiers of the costs associated with those services. So that's great. Jennifer, thank you so much. Wanted to ask advice about internship programs across the country. All universities start and end different times. What's the advice on starting a company-wide program in terms of timing? That's a great question. And I think I have seen internship programs start, sometimes they're in August and then they run until March. Sometimes they run through the summer. It really, really depends on the organization. For instance, in accounting, we know that the busy time that they have is towards the beginning of the year. And so often accounting internships are going to be typically towards January through April. So it really depends on the industry, also depends on types of students that you want to recruit. For instance, a lot of online students or non-traditional students, their online institutions have a much different schedule. Typically, students either can go full all year round as opposed to the typical August through May. And so you can get a lot of different opportunities through that. Again, it just really depends on your industry. And if you would like to chat about this, please feel free. I'll pop the email address in here as well. And if you would like to chat about this, we can certainly do that as well. And yes, to Beverly's questions, do you have students located in Mobile, Alabama? We sure do. We absolutely do. We have students located all across the United States and across the world, which is pretty incredible. Excellent. And one of the things too that we can do in terms of recruiting is we could see students located within certain parameters of a city or a certain location, and then target our marketing based off of that location as well and where we know those students are located. Excellent. I know we're almost at time. Are there any other questions that you all might have?
Just to add on to that, Addison, too.
Yes.
If you're hiring for like a really specific niche also, like Addison mentioned accounting, so we can go down to like county level by program. If you only want students who are more than halfway through their program, we can target that way too. So we can get really focused with who we're sending out information to. And like they've said, that's included with kind of all of our free services as well. So
excellent. Thank you very much, Kristen. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Really, really appreciate you joining. If you have any additional questions, please email us hirewgu@wgu.edu. If I could speak, we are always more than happy to help and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much.